And what's going on, everybody? Welcome in to a debut of the new show here on Hardcore Sports Network. And this is the This Week in Phillies Baseball, as we'll dive into everything, all things Phillies pinstripes, and everything included like that along the way. I'm James Scorza, your host, with you, and with me, as always, is my group of companions on this very important Monday of basically, it's a day off for the Phillies, but we got a lot to get to. Joey Marks and Austin Hamill joining me as always. So, gentlemen, what's going on? How are you guys doing on this very important Monday of a busy Monday to start off the new week?
Very good. How are you doing, James? It's good to come off of last night's game on a good note instead of a sour one.
Yep, absolutely. Austin Hamill, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Feeling great, man. Coming off of a solid 2 out of 3 from the weekend series from the Phils, and a very solid matchups coming up this week. So I'm looking forward to breaking this stuff down with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot to get to on this very important hour. So we got Mitch Kopsky, the boss man, checking in with us, saying, what's good? What's going on, Mitch? Speaking of us, you can see me and myself and Joey on Fly Like Eagle on Friday afternoons on Hardcore Sports Network, and our maiden show on the Pass and F Sports Show every Saturday from 9 to 10:30 or so, and whatever we could try to do to talk more birds, Phillies, and all that stuff in between. But, man, the Phillies did actually good this weekend as we get ready for the first topic of our first show called the Weekly Recap. They will be talking about all things that happened in the recap of the game that happened last night and the week that happened in the week before. Obviously, the Phillies coming into this game after the game against the Mets, losing 3 and then getting swept by them. They look like they found their footing a little bit against Chicago on Saturday. So Friday they lost the first game of the series, and then the second game was actually more dominant by the Phillies, winning 10-2 over the Chicago Cubs. And Jesus Luzardo was on fire. He pitched a hell of a gem. So the first question I got to ask you guys this too is, so since we are breaking down this Phillies and Cubs series, so Joey, I'll ask you the first important question here. So, what was your first immediate reaction when you heard the news about? What's your first immediate reaction when you see the Phillies taking 2 out of 3 this weekend? And how did you feel about what the Phillies did this weekend as a whole?
Yeah, here's the thing. I felt like this was a get-right series. The Mets was a disappointing series for all intents and purposes, not just because it's within the division and a rival, but because we got swept. And in the way we played in New York, it just didn't look good. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a good look on this Phillies team, wasn't a good look for this organization, wasn't a good look, period. And then playing that first game on Friday in Chicago felt like much the same.
Yeah.
Saturday felt like a wake-up call. It felt like they just weren't going to be denied, whether it was a meeting, a speech, or I don't know. I mean, James, me and you had a show prior to that day, earlier on Saturday morning, and we gave our general manager, our managerial speeches. And in we both kind of said they're not having fun anymore.
Right.
And I remember hearing on the telecast on Saturday, like, they look like they're having fun again. And it's like, I'm not saying the Phillies listen to our show, but
you never know.
The idea that maybe they understood that they weren't having fun anymore. And the last 2 games against Chicago, Saturday was more of what we've been wanting to see. Sunday was a matter of clutch and playing smart. And I think we'll get into that as the season goes along.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Austin, I'll ask you the question too. Like, how did you think the Phillies did this weekend as a whole, taking 2 out of 3 in Chicago?
Saturday was definitely the bounce back that Philadelphia needed, coming off of, what was that, 5 straight losses? I mean, losing in extras to Miami on the 20th was the beginning of the skid, and it just looked like we were not playing our best baseball. I mean, it also didn't help that one of those losses was if I recall, it was a Taijuan Walker start. And he just, again, this year has been consistently, I don't want to say, right. I don't want to say terrible. It hasn't been as bad as it was last year, but he's been consistently bad throughout this season. Nola hasn't been too good either. So getting a great start from Luzardo, grinding out a 3-1 win in 10 against the Cubs in Chicago, pulling 2 of 3 in that series was big for us going forward, especially going into, we're going to cover it later, the games coming up this week, the 3-set, the total of 6 at home against both Washington and Arizona. They're going to be big series for Philadelphia.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that I took out of this weekend too with the Phillies is that this was actually more of a needed series that the Phillies could get right here. I thought they looked very well in the last 2 games against Chicago. And yeah, that was a dreadful series, like you guys alluded to with the Mets. I mean, coming back and winning those, taking 2 out of 3, I thought it was a very good positive to move forward. But now the biggest challenge is that does the Phillies continue to have this level of success as they get closer and closer to opportunities when they take on teams that are like into the division now, like they got the Nationals coming up this week or so. So, Joe, I'll ask you this question since we're talking about how successful they were this weekend. So this is a standout performances. So what did you what was your standout player this week for the Phillies, especially against the Cubs in this 3-game set?
I gotta say it's been Bryson Stott.
Yeah.
Bryson Stott has kind of solidified that leadoff role like I had kind of thought he could. This is a guy that's coming off of injury. Last year, he didn't look like himself, and we later came to find out he was playing with an injury. And now that he's fully healthy, you're seeing what he's capable of doing. And they even said it on the telecast last night that you get Stott down or much of anybody down in this lineup 0-2 or down with 2 strikes. And you would think the at-bat's almost pretty much but over. But these guys fight to the bitter end every strike.
Yeah.
And, with Stott especially, having that guy at leadoff, it allows you, and I know people say it's only the first at-bat in the game. So what does that matter?
Right.
It is and it isn't, because if you are able to get the order to turn over, you want to be able to make sure that number 1 batter can get to the meat of your lineup. And
Right.
that is imperative, especially when you have guys like Turner, Harper, Castellanos, and Schwarber that are batting those in that meat of that lineup. So if Stott can just pass the baton, and he's been able to do that, I think he has shown that is a good formula for success going forward, and he proved it on Saturday and Sunday.
No question about it. Also, same question to you. Who was your standout for this weekend against Chicago?
Honestly, I'm going with the same guy as Joe. Bryson Stott batted 304 throughout the week. Had a really clutch. A 1-out triple off of Jameson Taillon in the 3rd inning of Sunday's game. He's been really living in that leadoff position, and it's great to see because we had Kyle Schwarber there last year, and although he was absolutely knocking the cover off of the ball, he was not a consistent on-base guy for that position, and it's exactly what you really need. And then to have a guy like Trey Turner follow him up in the lineup has been big for Bryson.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll go one step closer like you guys are, but I got to go with Alec Bohm. I think Alec Bohm played very well the last couple games. Finally getting him. I mean, it was kind of crazy, though, because you think about what happened with him, too, because the Phillies were starting to lose some games and starting to struggle a little bit. And then Alec Bohm started to play a little bit better. And even you alluded to Austin with Taijuan Walker. And the thing that made me maybe laugh a little bit. It was like saying that now all of a sudden the hitters from 2, 3, 4 now finally and 5 maybe are starting to hit the baseball a little bit, and now it feels like the Phillies need to get some runs in, need to get some like wins here to get back on track here, especially. But taking 2 out of 3 is a big step going forward for this Phillies team. I thought Luzardo was fantastic on Saturday afternoon, and I think Aaron Nola, even though he didn't get the win last night, I thought he pitched very well along the way too. But I mean, I like when he didn't have a decision, because the question is that what Aaron Nola we're going to see last night, and I guess we saw a good Aaron Nola in that game last night too. All right, but this is something that I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on, because apparently there's a player that got traded over the weekend, and that is Cody Clemens, traded to the Minnesota Twins this weekend. So Austin, I'll ask you this first question. So what was your immediate reaction when you heard the news about Cody Clemens getting traded to Minnesota?
I sort of expected that something was going to happen. There was going to be some sort of move made with Cody Clemens because he is definitely a valuable piece to a bench. Minnesota's definitely lacking a good little bit of a pop coming from guys at the plate from off of their bench. So Cody Clemens was a good addition for them. Hate to see him go, but we're starting to get some guys back. Some guys are starting to step up a bit down in AAA that we can call up and give an opportunity to. And Cody wound up just being the low man on the totem pole for that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, Joey, what was your immediate reaction about Cody Clemens going to the Twins?
Much the same as Austin. I hate to see the kid go, but there's a logjam, and there's guys that I feel like we're going to want to see more of than we are Cody. We kind of knew what we had with Cody, but there was just no spot for him. It felt like, with the emergence of Cal Stevens from time to time, and there's just a lot that's coming up then, and there's not much space for Cody to really thrive. And it's really not fair, but this is why the Phillies organization is so good, is because we would rather trade away a piece that we would love to keep, but know that he can't thrive in this environment.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
We try to take that and flip it as a part of an investment for the future. And that's just what I think they did with that trade.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's going to be the one thing is for sure that what they'll look like and see what they'll have in store. So we got a comment here. I guess it says Bill for the Hobbit. I think that's your name. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, bud. So he says losing to the Mets is the worst feeling. Do playoffs care about do players care about the fans? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I would say, too, I mean, it's kind of like what the Marlins were back in the day that had the Phillies number. So, yeah, I mean, the Mets feel like they have a, what do you call it? And also, if you're watching right now here on Hardcore Sports Network and on our YouTube page, hit that like and subscribe button over at Hardcore Sports Network because we know a thing or two to try to get everybody to get back into the things that we love to do. But like I said, I mean, it was kind of like the old number. Joey, you got a question?
No, I wanted to add, because one of the things that there's the record that has been at Citi Field for the last 10 years has just not been good for the Phillies.
No.
That has been a house of horrors for the Phillies. Do I think the Mets are good? Yes, they're good. Are they going to, win the division? Can't say right now, because honestly, I feel like their pitching is pitching better than what they're going to be. I know they're going to get Manaea back. I know they're going to get other guys back, but I still don't have confidence in the Mets starting pitching, quite frankly. I think that they're just playing good baseball at a good time, and that's fine. But like, as far as the fans and losing to the Mets, I empathize with hating losing to the Mets. I almost hate losing to the Mets as much as I hate the Eagles losing to the Cowboys. Like it's the same amount of pain.
Amount of pain. Yep.
But here's what I would say, and I've said this about Dallas, and I'll say this about the Mets. When the team has a talented team, I'm going to call it objectively. But here's the thing. I still feel like the Phillies are a better team than the Mets.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so we got another comment here by talking about the saying that, and he says, I don't care who we lose to, we can't lose to the Mets and Braves. That's the truth. That is the truth. Yeah. You got to beat the teams in your division, especially to keep close track of what they're going to look like. But this week is going to be another tough challenge because Mackenzie Gore is in the lineup. Will be pitching tomorrow night. Yeah. And the last time we checked, Mackenzie Gore put a dime a dozen on strikeouts on opening day against the Phillies. But we'll dive into that later as we get closer and closer to the end of the program here. Yeah. So this is
just a really quick touch on the comment that was made there. I 100% agree. It always sucks to lose to your divisional opponents, but we're 28 games into the season. I mean, there's absolutely. I can understand. Like I said, I can understand the frustration behind it, but you're not going to win every series against these guys. You're going to have games where everything's not going to break your way. The ball's going to bounce a little bit differently. You're going to end up leaving runners on base in situations where you can get that base hit and drive a run home. Pitcher will know he can make a pitch and get a guy out, and he just leaves it up a little bit. It happens. It's a 162 game season. We're only 28 in. There's going to be plenty more opportunities to Yeah, it's insane to think that we're already 28 games into this season. But like you're going to get so many opportunities to get back those losses against these guys as the season wanes on. So, like I said, like I feel like this early into the season, I am nowhere even close to even thinking about a panic button. From what I've heard, we're probably going to be getting Ranger Suarez back soon, which thank the gods above, it means no more Taiwan Walker in this starting rotation.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And we have another comment here. So I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, buddy. So it says, okay, 28 games, but to get swept, the games were not even close. So
no doubt.
Like Joe said, historically we're not great in Citi Field. It's just one of those things. The next time we face them, I believe we get them at home.
Yes.
Yeah, let me double check. And it's not for a while too.
Mm-hmm.
We don't play them again until like mid-June. So hopefully we can build some momentum going up to that. Yeah, we get Atlanta before.
We get Atlanta before them at home, and here's the thing. For all intents and purposes, with the Mets, this is a team that has to rely on 2 or 3 guys in that lineup in order to be good. If those guys aren't hitting well, it becomes more diametrically opposed as an offense. You can't do anything if Lindor, Pete Alonso, or Soto doesn't do anything because the rest of that lineup can't carry the weight. This is the difference. This is why I am confident when I say the Phillies are a better team than the Mets, because we've already seen the struggles with this lineup. We've witnessed it. But when you talk about carrying the weight, it can be the meat of the lineup. It could be the bottom of the lineup. It could be the top of the lineup with the first 3 hitters. That is the difference. There's depth at this team, and we're going to get more depth as the season rolls along.
Yeah, no question. So we got another topic here we could talk about here on these airwaves here. I guess we got another. I mean, so I guess he's saying like to lose into Griffin Canning.
To lose to Griffin Canning it's very rough. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but
yeah, for sure, man.
Like Joe was saying, the core guys for the Mets in that series really did go off. So
yes,
yeah.
Every once in a while, you're going to run into a team that has a couple of players that are playing very well, and you're going to end up potentially staring down the barrel of a pretty rough loss. So it's going to happen. Like I said, there's 162 total games in the season, so there's no need to. I personally feel like there's no need to panic just yet. It'll end up being a bit more of an issue when we get towards the end of the season, and our records are, if they end up being pretty close to similar, because if it comes down to a tie, it's going to be head-to-head record.
Yep.
And it could end up bringing a severe disadvantage to our end. So
yeah, sure.
Sometimes it evens out in the end, and I can promise you this. When the Phillies, when the Mets come back here and meet the Phillies, you can best believe that the Phillies will remember the embarrassment that occurred at Citi Field. Like that's not going to be lost on them. And so that's why I'm not as concerned.
And we're going to greet Juan Soto with such a sea of booze, he will have no idea what to do with himself.
Yeah, right. All right, so let's get into our topic of this one's another one that I actually found pretty interesting to talk about. So it's called Player Spotlight. So we'll talk about who on this team played to their capability over the weekend. So this one's probably plain and simple for me. I'll go first. So Jesus Luzardo had himself a very good outing again on Saturday afternoon. I thought he played very, very well. And like I said, definitely lived up to that hype of that contract like that when we signed him in the offseason. That's something to keep a close eye on Saturday afternoon. So, Joe, I'll ask you this question. So, like, if you had to pick a player that was a spotlight to you, who would that be?
I would say Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola really showed me that he could bounce back. Because starting 0-5, which he's never done before, having a high ERA, and going against a very high caliber Cubs offense. I mean, the Cubs offense is one of the tops in the major leagues, and he only held them to 1 run.
Right.
And in Wrigley Field. And so, like, that tells me he's getting his stuff together.
Mhm.
And look, for all intents and purposes, people who sit there and I agree that when the weather gets warmer, Aaron Nola starts to get warmer.
Right.
And in Chicago, it was a chilly weekend. It was a blustery, chilly weekend. But yet, despite that, Aaron Nola was able to pitch in a way where, as I said, as I will quote Buster Olney from last night, he still has the formula, which means he still has the formula to get guys out, to be able to win, to be able to pitch well enough to win a baseball game. And last night proved that. In my mind, Aaron has to be or play like a number 2 starter. And last night proved that you could rely on him like that, despite the record in the ERA.
Yeah, Austin, what about you? Who was your standout for player spotlight this week?
Honestly, and I had been waiting for him to sort of come around a little bit and have a consistent series. Max Kepler,
Yeah.
the offseason addition to help sort of bolster a bit of a minus defense outfield, having guys like Castellanos and Schwarber out there. When I believe it was 3 for 8 in the Saturday and Sunday games combined. In the Sunday game, getting that walk that pushed Real Muto out to Real Muto and Castellanos out into scoring position for the sacrifice fly that Bohm hit to put us ahead. So I mean, you're starting to see him get himself a bit around on the plate side of things. His defense is always going to be there. The main thing with him, as we've seen throughout his career, is just can he stay healthy? And he's looking to be doing pretty well so far. He's trending in a good direction. His bat's getting there. Like I said, the defense is always there. I've been a huge fan of his for a long time, and to see him finally come to Philly, I've been so excited to have this opportunity to have him here. And he's definitely putting the work in for sure. And you're starting to see it now, especially with the series that he had against the Cubs over the weekend.
Yeah, he put a very good series. I agree with that too. And even to allude to Joey's point and to your point too with Max Kepler, the thing I'll say about with Aaron Nola that sometimes he doesn't do well against teams. I'm not teams, but against like weather conditions that are like obviously like cold and windy, like it was over in Chicago over the weekend. That's something that is going to be something to keep a close eye on as they get closer and closer to the end of the season and see what they'll look like as we get closer. And if the Phillies make a playoff push and all that too. But Kepler, I think we're finally seeing what Kepler has finally what we saw at the beginning of the season. I think we're starting to finally see his footing a little bit about what he looked like. So that's something that was very interesting to see this weekend. I thought for me too, what Trey Turner last night actually coming up huge last night in big spots in that game was actually a big reminder too in that spotlight too. So I got to put him definitely on that list too. And probably whoever, I mean, the thing probably this week, if we got to talk about future references, especially for this show this week, I would like to see Zach Wheeler get back to where he was like at the beginning of the season. Obviously, he's struggled a little bit here and there, but he had a couple good outings here and there too. So that's something to be looking forward to in that first game of the series starting tomorrow here at CBP.
Yeah, I need some big outings from Zach Wheeler for my fantasy team. He's one of my my 5-star pitchers that I have on my team because I decided to top load on pitching.
Right.
It's him, Dylan Cease, Paul Skeens. Do I need to continue, or is that 3 enough?
You can stop
by all means, buddy. By all means.
And I also got Ellie De La Cruz in my top 4 picks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No problem.
Kid's a beast, man. Yeah, kid's a stud.
Yeah, oh my gosh. But yeah, I feel like seeing Wheeler start to trend back in a positive direction. I mean, the strikeout numbers are always going to be there. He always has strikeout stuff, but to see him, be able to limit the contact and be able to help like keep himself out of high pressure situations, especially this early in the year, because it could end up wearing and tearing on the mental of a pitcher going forward. You want to see him maintain that confidence, bring it back a little bit, and just get back to being himself because he is key to this team winning a lot of games.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to say something as far as the things to look for in the coming week. For this team, the thing that I want to see going forward in this coming week is better defense. Mm-hmm. Last week or so, 2 weeks, I've been seeing really bad defense, especially in the outfield. Yohan Rojas is a much better outfielder than he's playing as. And it's not that I'm knocking him in the sense that I feel like he's a bad outfielder. I think he's a good outfielder. Mm-hmm. I think he could potentially be a great defensive outfielder. It's doing the boneheaded mistakes by not taking charge. You're the guy. You take charge. You're the guy. There in Chicago last night, there was a ball that dropped, and that could have been a shutout. That could have been a much different game if that ball doesn't drop.
Right.
And I get it, the wind and all that, but you're the guy that has the wheels in this outfield, and you're the captain when you're in the center field. You are the captain in that outfield. So he's got to take better charge. I want to see better defense out of the Phillies in this upcoming week. And you're going to need it because the Nationals are just coming off of beating the Mets 2 out of 3, and you're always snake bitten a little bit, no pun intended, when it comes down to the Arizona Diamondbacks. So you got to be careful. You got to play smart baseball, especially out in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is another topic we're going to talk about here on this day and age, is that sometimes we'll probably have a little bit of a disagreement on this lack of bullpen. So it's called the Bullpen Watch, because basically we all know how bad sometimes. I know the feeling, Joe. Believe me, I know. When I put this together, I said, do I really got to put this bullpen crap together? But But I gotta say right now, especially over this weekend, maybe they'll give me something to talk about than having something to pull my hair out or have an aneurysm or something like that. So the first, this is only just one question I want to ask you. So this is for both of you guys. So the bullpen struggles happened on Friday night, but they look like they were just okay. But sometimes okay is not okay, especially on Saturday. But Sunday was better though. So overall, how did you guys think the bullpen did over the last couple days or so? Because frankly, it's been a long time coming since the bullpen had pitched to the potential. But how did you guys think they did this coming weekend here against Chicago?
I feel like, and Austin alluded to this earlier, with Ranger coming up, it means Taiwan's going to probably move to the bullpen, which means an arm in the bullpen is probably going to get moved out.
Right.
Now, who is that? Who's the guy who gets either DFA'd or sent down or whatnot? I think we all know who we want to be sent down or DFA'd.
Got that right.
Jordan Romano. And look, I get it. He's still, people are like, you're not giving him much of a chance. Look, the guy has given up more runs in less showings than
seasons game.
Then most of the starters. Like you add up all the starters in this rotation, I don't think they've given up as many runs combined as Jordan Romano has.
That's true,
in his total outings.
Yeesh.
And so like that's an indictment on Jordan. And because you got paid handsomely to come here, and nothing against Dave Dombrowski, but like this is a guy you had feelings that were going to be a good arm. Now there was a guy, now I'm blanking on his name, of course, that got picked up, that it was a reliever that was like the high end reliever in the it was like Sharpay or Crochet or whatever it was.
Right.
That he got picked up in free agency, and this is a guy that had like an arm that could throw for days and was a stud.
Right.
But instead of going for the top end guy that could really solidify your bullpen, you went for a budget basket kind of bullpen arm, and now you see what you're getting with it. A guy that you're not sure is going to let up 6 runs and blow a game for you. Like, give it away.
Yeah, definitely. Austin, same question to you. How did you feel the bullpen did this weekend overall?
Even though they wound up pulling it together in the tail end of the weekend, it left a lot to be desired. This bullpen is, from what we saw last year, can be one of the better bullpens in the league. It's just there's always those 1 or 2 guys that end up just being the major wall in the progress. And Jordan Romano has definitely been that guy. I mean, I genuinely think the last time I looked at his stats, his ERA was north of 16.5, which is abysmal. Especially for a guy who's
awful.
only coming in and at most maybe pitching an inning and a third, 2 innings. To have an ERA that high is unreasonable. And as much as I would love to just have us take Taijuan Walker and tell him, go on, get, I would much rather send him down to send Romano down to AAA, let him get some work, try and get some confidence back, and to sort of top off on what Joe was talking about. The guy you were talking about was Garrett Crochet. He signed with the Red Sox. 2-2 record this season, 44 strikeouts, ERA of 1.95. So maybe the bargain bin gave us a broken toy. Who knows? But hopefully we can send them back down to the toy maker, have them put a couple of extra pieces in, get them to figure out some new things, maybe try and I don't know, just take some time and sort of just try and get a mental reset more than anything, because the pace of play alone in the major leagues is totally different from down in AAA, even down in AA. Give him some time to sort of work himself out. We signed him for a reason. He's not some nobody pitcher who shouldn't even be in the major leagues, obviously. But when you look at the comparison between what we've gotten with Romano and what we could have gotten with Crochet, like, there's a lot left to be desired for specifically that addition that we made to the bullpen.
Yeah, and I'll say this in regards to if people want to shine a light of hope in all of this. If you send Jordan Romano down to AAA, just like Austin's alluding to, if you go back not that long ago in 2022, Alvarado had some real control issues. They sent him down to AAA for about a month and a half. He came back up, and he was the best reliever in Major League Baseball for the remainder of the season. So can that happen again with Jordan Romano? That is yet to be seen.
Yeah, and we alluded to a couple weeks ago with the kind of like the same scenario we had with Brett Myers. Try to resurrect his career a little bit, to send him down to the minors and build his way back up.
So back as a closer in that role after he started to fall apart as a starter. Yeah, that was. Right. It's sometimes all it takes is like a week or two, just down in the minors, get refine your comfortable positions in mechanics. I used to pitch, so I sort of understand it a little bit. Sometimes you just feel like you're off a little bit when you're throwing, and you're not trying to really worry too much about it, because you're like, this is the stuff that's gotten me to where I am. Right. And someone from an outside perspective will look at it and be like, you're not throwing the same way you were last year.
Right.
So you go back and you start watching and you're like, oh shit, like my initial step towards the plate definitely isn't the same that it could have been. Yeah. And you get back, you find yourself back in that motion again. You start getting that motion back, just getting back to the base fundamentals of everything,
Yeah, definitely.
Keep yourself in that ready position and work just getting that step. If you can at least do that to start off, everything else is going to follow through after that, because everything else is just mechanical from that first step. Just like with hitting, you take that first step, you get that load, everything's going to follow after you plant that foot down. Right. Just like with pitching, once you plant that foot, everything else is going to go. And you just have to rely on the muscle memory to get you there. And there could be some sort of a small disconnect between those two things for Romano, but you give him time, he should be able to at least bring the ERA down somewhat. He may not be able to get it back down into like sub 3, but having him go from, almost 17 to even just down to 6 would be an improvement that would be incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the other thing too, and then we'll wrap it up here. We're gonna do the minor league watch, but I think it's just a minor league affiliate with what's been going on with Brandon Marsh and all that too. But we could probably wait for another day, because Brandon Marsh suffered a setback yesterday due to that hamstring injury. But
so bummer. But like the one thing that I will make mention of is oh shoot, I did have it up and I clicked away from it because I have him on my fantasy team. I drafted Ranger Suarez because I knew he was going to come back eventually, and I didn't want anyone to snipe him out from me, so I grabbed him in my draft. They're saying it's possible his next appearance will come in the major leagues after striking out 8 and 4 2/3 for Lehigh Valley on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So it's they're saying it's possible that he could end up doing one more minor league rehab start if Christopher Sanchez can avoid going on the IL.
Gotcha.
So fingers crossed, Christopher Sanchez can stay off the IL because he's dealing with that forearm issue. If we can, and then from there, have Ranger get one more rehab start in just to make sure he feels good, bring him back up, get him into a bit of an innings limit to start off. Getting him involved back into this rotation is going to be huge for Philadelphia. Ranger Suarez is such an effective pitcher. Pairing him with Christopher Sanchez is in my opinion, two of the better lefties in the league.
That's true.
And you have a really dynamic starting rotation. Nola seems like he's starting to figure it out. The weather's starting to get nicer. We all know that aside from cold and wind, he does tend to get snake bitten in the tail end of the season, but hopefully he can get his numbers to where he's still considerably effective when that time comes, because we're going to need all hands on deck as the season gets to an end, because a lot of this division is bolstered a lot in the offseason, and it's going to make for a real dogfight as we get to the end of the year.
Definitely.
And to chime in on the Christopher Sanchez thing, there has been no imaging. There is no concern from the Phillies brass that there's any serious injury up to this point. He did a short toss on Sunday, just playing catch and whatnot, and there didn't seem to be a problem. So the hope is that Christopher will not miss his next start, but Rangers kind of like a fail-safe plan just in case, and that's one of the reasons why they wanted to keep Ranger on schedule in that way. So that way that if Christopher were to miss a start, Ranger might be able to plop right in there.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And that's, the other thing too, we hope is that Sanchez's injury is not significant, and also it could just probably miss a couple games here and there, but hopefully it's not anything urgent or anything like that too.
Yeah, especially with no imaging and stuff, you assume that the decision is going to be made based off of how he feels, and especially getting that short toss in on Sunday means that he definitely doesn't feel as bad as he did when he had to leave the game against the Mets.
Right.
So hopefully all signs are trending towards the positive for him. Maybe sit him for one start. But if he says he's good to go and they didn't have to take any serious testing for him, then he should be good to go. And hopefully when his time comes up in the rotation, he'll be ready to rock.
And that's why having Ranger to possibly pop in for that start, if he does wind up missing it, it's not a complete, downfall.
Exactly.
You're popping in talent for talent.
Yeah, you're replacing a solid lefty with good stuff with another solid lefty with good stuff. So you can't beat that.
Yeah.
No, you can't. That's the thing. All right, so we got one more topic here before we get out of here. This is called the upcoming series preview. So we will talk about is coming up this week for the Phillies. They got 3 against the Nationals, and I think 3 against the Diamondbacks, if I'm not mistaken. Diamondbacks, okay.
All 6 at home.
All 6 at home. So the first series is for the Nationals. So we'll be recapping the Diamondback series next Monday here on This Week in Phillies Baseball. But so we got some probable pitchers that for the upcoming series is still unknown, but tomorrow for sure. Zach Wheeler, will take the mound tomorrow, and he has a record of 2-1 this season. That has a goals. That's when I'm still in hockey mode.
Still in hockey mode, dude.
Still in hockey mode. Yeah, it's been crazy. That's
the playoffs have been wild.
Yeah, man. So speaking of which, he has a 3.62 earned run average for the Nationals tomorrow. He'll be opposed by Mackenzie Gore. So same opening day. Similar opening day starts for Wheeler and Gore, who were the game 1 starters of opening day. So, like I said, like Mitch alluded to earlier, hit the like and that subscribe button on YouTube, on our Facebook and Twitter, Facebook and social media and YouTube page over at Hardcore Sports Network.
Hey James, if Zach wants to play goalie for the Flyers, that's okay.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
I'm cool with it.
I'm good with it. You know what I'm saying?
Tell Schwarber to lace it up. A big body in the net. Love that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I want him to lace it up as a defenseman. I want to see him on stage.
Oh, man.
Him taking bodies like Bufflin, dude.
Oh, my God.
Listen, he's already got the nickname, the Schwarbarian. That's a defenseman, a hockey defenseman's nickname if there ever was one.
It really is.
He won't be no car bomb, that's for sure, like Carcillo. Yep. Speaking of which, tomorrow, like I said, it will be Wheeler and Mackenzie Gore tomorrow. Tuesday for the Phillies, that's still to be determined, so it depends on what Sanchez and also if that's going to be Ranger Suarez. For the Nationals, it'll be Jake Irvin taking them out on Wednesday night. That will be his record this season, 2-0 this season, as an ERA of 3.19. And to close out the series, like I said, that will be another to be determined for the Phillies. That will be Brad Lord, who will be closing out the series that night. or that I think it's that day if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think he has a record of 0-3 this season and has an ERA of 4.67. So 2 of the times the Phillies will play still to be determined. Either it will be Ranger Suarez or maybe Christopher Sanchez or something about that too. So my question to you guys is, before we wrap up here, is that what's going to be how do you see this Phillies team do in this stretch for the next 6 games before we chat next?
See,
Honestly,
I think that this team has to pull a 4-2 record out in this 6-game set, because I think they need to kind of they need to get their confidence back. It's something that was said earlier. They need to start piling these series wins together. So, let's hope that can, can be the outcome, because, you got the Braves in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So, like, you want to make sure you're ready and set for that. You want to get yourself back into good standings, because we don't want to be buried in the NL East. And, we already are falling behind. The Braves are kind of on a 7-2 in the last 9 games. So they're on their way back up. You got the Mets that are still at the top of the mountain for NL East, so you don't want to get buried. So 4-2 has to be what you do in the next six games, and my ideal is that you take 2 or 3 out of both series.
Yeah, definitely. Austin, how do you think this series got? What's your expectations for the upcoming these next 2 series? That's my question. I forgot the question I was asking.
I totally agree with Joe. Going 4-2 is going to be big if you can manage to pull it out. From what I'm seeing from ESPN for the probable starters for Philadelphia for the next 6, as you alluded to, Wheeler game 1, game 2 is a to be determined. Game 3, Taijuan Walker.
Oh boy,
yeah. Then to start off Arizona, it's Luzardo, then Nola, then Wheeler again. So we get 2 Wheeler starts this week. So hopefully he can be sort of the linchpin of this whole thing trending in a positive direction. But then you look at the guys who Arizona is going to be starting in that weekend series: Kelly, Fott, Rodriguez for the pitching matchup there. And Fott and Kelly have both been really solid. I did want to touch on Mackenzie Gore a little bit, because the man is no slouch. He's been playing really well, although his record personally doesn't show it. 2-3 right now on the year. He has 53 strikeouts this season, which is the most in Major League Baseball. So he is clearly a very solid strikeout pitcher. You just have to be able to find your spots against this guy. Hopefully he leaves a couple of things that don't break in the zone and you can really touch him up a little bit. But Philadelphia has a really solid chance to pull out a over 500 set here at home, especially in the friendly confines of CBP. They play much better there than they do on the road, which seems to be a recurring theme for a lot of Philadelphia teams this year, is they play way better at home than they do on the road. But it's always tough to win on the road, no matter what league you play in, honestly. So being able to get a 6 set here at home, and then you travel out to Tampa to start off the following week, you want to be able to leave out from Philadelphia on a very positive note for sure.
Definitely.
Keep something in mind when you say about 53 strikeouts. Just keep in mind, almost a little less than a quarter of those have been by the Phillies.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
That's the thing, is the Phillies have to minimize their strikeouts against Gore. They have to see ball, hit ball. They are more than capable of doing it. And coming back to CBP, they have to take some little home cooking. And the weather's going to get warm this week. It's going to get into the 80s. It's time to let the ball fly. It's time for hitting season.
Yep. The humidity's going to pick up a little bit. That ball's going to carry just a little bit further. So some of that stuff that you saw that was warning track power a few weeks back could end up being 15 rows deep.
Absolutely. And I guess the other thing too is, like you guys alluded to, with the weather being a factor, I think that'll be Aaron Nola's bread and butter. Just trying, because when he pitches on warm days, he actually starts to pitch better and better when it's 80 degrees, also sunny or maybe humid. So that'll be something to keep a close eye on. And even like you alluded to, 2 Wheeler starts in a matter of a few days of each other. That's pretty cool to see, actually, and that'll be something to look forward to in this matchup tomorrow, and especially looking forward to the upcoming matchups along the way as well. All right, that's going to wrap up our portion of today for this week in Phillies baseball. want to thank Joey Marks once again for joining me like he always does. We always kill it all the time on Passing Up. So stay tuned for us during the week. We'll be back for Fly Like an Eagle on Friday afternoon at 4, and then Passing Up on Saturday at 9 a.m. So Austin, I don't know when the next time I'll see you next, but how can people find you, and where can people find you?
Right down here, twitch.tv/Hambo26. I play a ton of silly video games that I'm really bad at. Aside from that, on the Hardcore Play and Rewind channel, Saturdays around noon, we're actually, with the month of May coming up, we're covering Japanese role-playing games, also known as JRPGs. So games like Final Fantasy, things like those for the month of May. Definitely looking forward to that. They're sort of like my bread and butter for games, but yeah, aside from that, on the hardcore sports Discord, also on my personal Discord that I run with a very incredible community. You can also along with the Twitch, same name for my YouTube. You can reach out to me on either one of those. I can send you a link for the Discord if you want to join the community. We've been putting that together for over a year now, and it's honestly been incredible. But yeah, aside from all of those, you will see me here next Monday, covering these games that we've just talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joey, I'll see you sometime soon, man. I think we got some stuff to do during the week. So speaking of which, too, before we go, stay tuned very, very soon in the next few months or so, because we got some Philly fame legends that me and Joey are going to be talking about, too. So we got a lot to get to, and also a lot of things to be really looking forward to. There's a lot of things on the rise, and like in the words of Seinfeld, the wheels are in motion, my friends, and it's just a start. And things are just going to get funner after here. All right, so now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that made it work here now, for Joey, for Austin, I'm James, and this has been the This Week in Phillies Baseball edition of Phillies Baseball. I want to say thanks for everybody for chiming in. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. I'm James Scorza. We'll see you soon. And go Birds, go Phils, and we'll talk to you later. See ya.
Later.